All right. We are live. I'm in here a little early, just getting my sound check, making sure everything is set up. Making sure I can hear and be heard. All right, and I can. Well, this is going to be my last Summer Wells video until the TBI or the Hopkins County Sheriff issues an update, or until she's found. So before I get into this last video, although I will not be making another Summer Wells video until, like I said, an update or she is found, I will be presenting some more content. I have come across a very salacious small town triple homicide. I'm putting that together for you. I believe you will, uh, as a true crime fan, find it very interesting. A few twists and turns, small town secrets, and shocking DNA results. Yeah. So I've never actually heard of that one until someone just happened to mention it. They were like, "Oh, hey, have you heard of?" And I was like, "No, I've never heard of that." And it wasn't covered very well in the local news where it happened, but I have a few inside sources, so I am putting together that content. And of course, we know it goes down in small towns. All right. I also have a couple of others that I'm working on from some not so small towns. They weren't nationally uh, noted in the news, but some of them were covered very, very strongly locally and regionally. So I think those will be interesting as well. Now, on to Summer Wells and my rant. I believe I said in the description that this is just going to be a rant, and it's going to be about these horrible people in this child's life. First, I want to say, God bless this child. You know, in my heart of hearts, I really kind of hope that she's just, she was taken and she's with someone who just saw her situation, wanted to get her out of that. We know that that is not likely, but hey, I kind of like to try to keep at least a positive hope, even if it's not realistic. At least it's kind of comforting to think that as opposed to thinking the worst until the worst uh, hopefully is not, but until the worst is confirmed. Dear God, who do I start with? Do I start with Candace? Do I start with Don? Allie? Candace Sr.? Dear, it seems like this child, aside from uh, Robin at the church, was surrounded by just horrible people, and not necessarily horrible to her, but just horrible in general to the point where it just couldn't help but to affect her. I mean, let's look at Candace. We'll start there. Okay. I don't really have a whole lot of bad stuff to say about Candace per se. Like, it's been stated and possibly confirmed that, well, it's been confirmed that she once had a meth problem, but that she's supposedly clean now, that she still smokes weed and she still drinks. And obviously, she still smokes or vapes nicotine. Okay, doesn't automatically make her a bad parent. Um, she and I don't really know how to say this without somebody wanting to jump down my throat and not being offensive, but just keeping it real, Candace looks like she could possibly be slow, you know? So maybe she just doesn't make the best decisions. Maybe she just, maybe she's easily influenced. Maybe she's gullible. Maybe she's just oblivious to reality, you know? When it boils down to it, I kind of, two of the strong theories that I'm focusing on that really stick out to me is that something happened to Candace, something happened to Summer when she was with Candace, and Candace is covering something up. And I think that's one of the top two on everybody's list. I don't think she's necessarily an evil person or a bad mom. I mean, I went back on, of course, she's made it private now, but I went back on her Facebook page as far as I could possibly go in her photos. And it was like a year back or something like that, but her kids don't look, and mind you, I know that abuse and neglect is not always something you can just look and see, but visually, her kids don't look like they're hurting for anything. They don't look abused, neglected. I mean, yeah, we see a lot of pictures and videos of them dirty, but I mean, they're country kids playing out in the yard, swimming in creeks, playing in jacuzzis made into tubs in the yard. They're doing kid stuff. They're doing normal kid stuff that most people probably find strange because we're so used to kids being in the house on YouTube, on video games, in the TV, whatever. But like when I was coming up, we played outside, man. We played in the mud, we climbed trees, and I lived in the city. I can't imagine if I lived in the country. Dear God, I'd probably be up a creek every day. But we played in dirt. We played ball. We rode bikes. We raced down Dead Man's Hill with no brakes. We did kid stuff. We climbed on top of the house. We climbed trees. We climbed under the house. You know, you get dirty. You're going to have some scrapes. You're going to have some skint knees. You're going to have a few cuts that nobody can really explain because you were doing something that you probably don't want your parents to know. Well, I was hanging upside down out of the tree by my shoelaces, Mom, because they dared me to. So, but the kids look healthy. People are saying, "Oh, they're never dressed well." The pictures I saw, they were dressed like kids. Most people don't dress to the nines every freaking day of their life. Jeans and t-shirts, but they were cleaned. Jeans and sweaters, but they were clean. And most of the time they matched. I saw a lot of pictures of her doing things with her kids, going places to um, amusement parks, out to eat. I saw pictures of the kids having homemade breakfast that looks like a breakfast I would cook: sausage, eggs, grits. You know, I saw the kids dressed in new clothes. I saw them with toys. I saw Christmas pictures. And it's like nobody took the time to go back. I haven't seen her TikTok now because I don't do TikTok. That's an app that I just absolutely refuse to put on my phone for any reason. I don't know what it is, but TikTok and me will never be friends. I'll watch it on your phone, but not on mine. But it's like nobody took the time to really look. It's like we looked and we saw this situation and the characters involved in it, and immediately everybody just wanted to go on the attack. But if you take the time to look, from an unbiased perspective, you can't just look and say, "Oh, those kids were treated badly." Okay, the house wasn't clean to most people's standards. A good point has been made that that house was flipped, searched top to bottom several times before the video that we saw, just recently before the video that we saw of Candace taking Chris through the house. That house had been flipped multiple times by multiple agencies looking for Summer and looking for clues. Now, mind you, in their past photos, before all this happened, photos and videos that have been posted, you can see it's it's crowded in there. There's a lot of stuff in there, packed away, tucked away, put on a shelf, slid over here in the corner on the floor, and I can't necessarily say that it's a filthy environment, I'm going to say looking at that house and the way that that house is constructed, that house was not designed for a family of that size. It simply was not. And when you find yourself trying to cram that many people into a space that was not designed for that many people, you got to make it do what it do. So they were probably putting stuff on shelves, bringing in shelves or bookcases or dressers or whatever. I looked at how the boys' room upstairs looked when you walked in, and the way the dresser was placed, the way the bunk bed was placed, that was makeshift. That house wasn't designed for that. That was not a bedroom area. So it was made into a sleeping space. So as I said, if you really look at that house and the way that it's designed, and I'm sure somebody can probably pull up the blueprints, the original like blueprints for that house or whatever, you can see that house wasn't designed for that many people. It wasn't designed with multiple bedrooms for a bunch of kids. So you gotta work with what you got. But the house is bought and paid for. Obviously, they're paying the taxes on it because they're still there. What they say is he inherited that house 10 or 15 years ago. Okay, house is not the cleanest, but I didn't see no dead cats and rats. I didn't see rodent feces. I didn't see roaches running around. I didn't see trash piled up inside. I didn't see sinks overrunning with dishes and food and garbage. So I'm gonna cut her a little slack on that. I am. I'm gonna cut her a little slack on that. And I'm gonna say that on an average day, this is just to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna say on the average day it's probably not as bad. Is it ideal? Is it perfect? Is it OCD neat and clean? Is it clean? Is it as clean as the average person keeps their house? No. Is it unlivable? No. Is it something that protective services would take her children for? No. Could she use some carpet or some vinyl tile or something? Yeah, hell yeah, sure could. I want to talk about just look at her at these prayer vigils, and this is pissing me off because people are just if people are even going in on her about the prayer vigils and how she looked, man, I can sit here all day and say, oh, she should have sure put on some shoes. How you gonna go to your baby prayer vigil? They ain't got on no shoes and dressed like that. And then, you don't know what's going on with that one. I have to look at it from the standpoint of her child is missing. Her baby girl is missing. You know, think about this. This has been 2 months. This is not a local news story or a regional or even a national news story. This is a worldwide, it is a global news story. People are talking about summer wells in Ireland, England, Australia, Mexico. They're talking about her all around the globe. It's a highly public, highly visible case. If the police had enough evidence or suspicion to arrest anyone, you better believe somebody would be in jail already. I believe they have a ton of evidence that they haven't even hinted at. I believe they have a prime suspect in mind. I believe there's even a good chance that that prime suspect is not Don or Candace. But don't you think if the police felt like her parents did anything to her, had anything to do with her disappearing in any way, shape, or form, don't you think they'd be in jail somewhere? Don't you think the pressure would be on beyond, above, and beyond what you could think or imagine or dream? Do you think that if they suspected, now mind you, you got county law enforcement, state law enforcement, federal law enforcement. Out of those three agencies, with all the experience, all the technology, all the insight and knowledge and procedures and information and protocols that they have in place to find missing children, to solve murder cases, to to figure out this stuff, don't you think that they would have somebody in jail if they could say, yeah, they did it with any reasonable certainty? Do you think that if they even suspected that Candace Sr. or her vehicle or the slightest bit involved, that Summer may possibly be hidden in that vehicle or in a tote or whatever, that they would have let that woman leave the whole state? I mean, come on, let's be real. We're throwing out some crazy, wild accusations and theories when common sense says that the cops, the FBI, they've been doing this is their career. This is what they do for a living. This is their bread and meat. But yeah, we sit around here on social media, on YouTube, and criticize and point fingers and throw out random theory. Okay, Don, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about him. Yes, Don is easy to hate, even according to his own words. The things that he's admitted to, the things that he said about himself, the way that he acts, the way he carries himself, the way he everything about him makes him so easy to hate. And God knows Don Wells has done, by his own admission, he has done some things for which he deserves serious, harsh punishment. He does. But the fact that he's done all these other things doesn't necessarily mean that he's done something to Summer or that he had anything to do with Summer. Right now, from what was said, he was at work that day. Do you think that if the cops thought he lied or could see that he lied about where he was that day, they wouldn't have a fire lit under his ass? Because it's too easy to prove where a person was. Nowadays, if they thought that he lied about anything about that day, his movements, his actions, he'd be under the gun. I ain't sticking up for him. I'm not sticking up for anybody. I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm just interjecting some common sense. But back to Candace. People are talking about her and it's like she can't win for losing. If she cries, she's crying out of guilt. If she doesn't cry, she has no emotions. If she shows up to an event, then she's faking it. If she doesn't show up, then she don't care. Either way it goes, she can't freaking win. None of us. I think that I think the only people who really have anything like a right to judge how this woman is acting during all this is someone who's had a missing child. I've never had a missing child. I couldn't tell you how I would act, how I would be. I can't imagine. Would I be losing my mind crying all the time? Would I be calm, cool, and collected trying to figure out how to find my baby? Would I be hiding in the house, not wanting to come out, not wanting to see anybody, not wanting to be seen? Or would I be in everybody's face, passing out a flyer, asking questions? I don't know. I've never been in that situation. Most of the people who are talking about how she should or shouldn't be acting have never been in that situation. So, how do you know how she should be acting or shouldn't be acting? When I look at that woman at those prayer vigils, I see a whole lot of pain and hurt on that woman's face. It's like she just going through the motions. Why is she in pain? Why is she hurting? I don't know. Is it killing her inside because she knows what happened to her daughter and somebody needs to be punished for it? Maybe. Is it draining the life out of her because she has no clue and all she wants is her daughter home? Maybe. I don't know. So I don't have a right to sit here and say how she should or should be acting. I don't have a right to point fingers at her and judge her. Yeah, she went off a little bit on that phone call with Chris, but think about it, the whole world. These people are suddenly under the eye of the whole world. Everybody is judging every move they make, every breath they take, every step. They're being judged on the way they speak or don't speak. They're being judged on the way they wear their hair, the clothes they wear, what they drive, what they drink, what they don't drink, what they did 10 years ago, what they might do tomorrow. That's a lot of pressure. And these aren't people that seem like they deal with a whole lot of folks on a regular basis. And mind you, like I said, I ain't defending nobody. Because if you really want to know what I think they're most likely extremely racist. They're most likely horrible, selfish people. But that doesn't mean they don't love their kids and they don't do everything they can for them. That doesn't mean them being horrible people doesn't mean that they did something to their daughter. Don keeps talking and talking and talking, and the more he talks, the bigger he digs this hole that he's gonna fall in. I honestly believe that. I don't know if he did had anything to do with Summer being missing, but he had something to do with a whole lot of other stuff, and he might as well just get ready because they got a sale of the cop with his name on it, and it's coming for him at the appropriate time. Allie, we watched that interview, and I don't usually talk about people like that, not in public, but I don't usually talk about people. Everything about her and her mother says, I hate Candace. Check this out, right? I don't really have enemies. I have some people that I don't like. I have some people that don't like me. I have some people that we just don't fuck with each other. And it ain't nothing bad. We just don't fuck with each other. But even if the person that I disliked most in the world were to find themselves in a situation like this, I would not be running to the media, to YouTube creators, or anyone else, basking in their pain. Even if I didn't show up for them, I would show up for the child. Because when you think about it, regardless of what went on between Allie and Candace, whether it was some jealousy over Jose, or it was something to do with drugs, or it was something, whatever it was that went on between Allie and Candace, Summer has not nothing to do with it. This is an innocent 5-year-old child. I said I don't have any enemies, but if I had an enemy, if my worst enemy were in this situation, especially being from a small town like that, if my worst enemy was in this situation, I would be the loudest one in the crowd, screaming at the top of my lungs. Let's find this baby. Let's find this kid. Have you seen Summer? Forget whatever is going on between me and Summer's mom or me and Summer's dad. Have you seen Summer? Can we find this baby? So, because of that, I can't believe a single thing that comes out of Allie's mouth. Because at a time like this, when a child's very life is at stake, when a child's well being, health, and safety is on the line, all you can focus on is publicizing your hate for that child's parent. So that says a whole lot about you as a person, period. So from that point on, everything you say is irrelevant. Your character, it doesn't pass the smell test. Even Allie's mom over there in the corner, she didn't say much, but she said enough to let you know exactly what kind of person she is. And my great grandma had a saying: she ain't steal it, she got it honest. Allie ain't steal it, she got it honest. She got it from her mama. A situation like this is not the time for you to broadcast hatred, animosity, old dirt. It's a time to focus on finding this child and finding out what happened to her, how to bring her home safely. Then on top of that, Allie said she was a nurse, which means she's a mandatory reporter. That means if she sees or suspects neglect, she is required by law in order to keep her licenses and to avoid criminal charges. She is required by law to report it, and not anonymously. She's supposed to get on the phone, call the abuse hotline, give her name and all that information, and say, hey, this is what's going on. You know how I know? I got some mandatory reporters in my family. So for you to sit back and talk about all this slimy stuff and all this drug use and drinking and neglecting the kids, and oh, we had to feed them. We was in Walmart every day buying stuff for those kids. But did you do your job? Did you report that? Did you do something to make sure that resources were put into place to help these kids? If you thought that situation was that bad, what did you do to make sure that they were taken out of that situation or that that situation was made better as a mandatory reporter? So there's nothing Allie can really add to this situation, nothing of value, because by her own words, she's one of the most horrible people involved in this. As a mandatory reporter, you didn't report all this crazy stuff that you say was going on. You didn't report this. That means you knowingly left children in a situation that led to where we are right now. Summer's missing. We don't know if she's dead or alive. We don't know who took her. We don't know where she is and what was done to her. But had you, Miss Mandatory Reporter, made a report about all this foolishness that you claim was going on around this child, she might not be missing. So yeah, Allie is a horrible person. Then she threw it off and said that her mother is the one who started the friendship with Candace. So that means her mother would have known as well. Her mother may not be a mandatory reporter, but Allie's mother, if she was the original friend in the relationship with Candace, would have been one of the first to see what was going on. Would have been one of the first to see that these children aren't being treated right. These children aren't being properly taken care of. So guess what? Allie's mom, H's grandma, she's a horrible person too. One more horrible adult in this little girl's life. H. I'm not even gonna talk about him because he's still a minor. I ain't gonna talk about him. But he's on the road to being horrible. You know what? If I was Candace, I probably would have popped off on Chris too. And I would really like to know I want to hear the rest of that phone call because you notice they cut it off in the middle of Don talking when he said, I'm going to do everything I can to slander your name. He was still talking. What came after that? I ain't defending nobody. But right is right and wrong is wrong. Don is a horrible person. He's a horrible person. He is awful for the things that he's admitted to doing. But should we accuse him of sexually assaulting his own child? No. It actually kind of disturbs me that that's the first thought that people's mind instantly went to that. Even before these other people came out saying that he had done this, that, or the other thing in the past, people were going in that direction. What kind of world do we live in, or what kind of mentality do people have, or sick fantasies that people have, that the first thing you think when something happens to a little girl is that her dad did something sexual to her? I'm a survivor, and that ain't even my first thought in most situations because I don't assume that to be the norm. These people are even talking about that he's grooming her because he called her a princess. Well, hell, if that's the case, then. And he actually didn't even call her a princess. He never said, she's my little princess, or I call her princess. He said she thinks of herself as a princess or a ballerina. He's still a horrible person, though, either way, because you have a 5-year-old stepsister that you said initiated a sexual relationship with you when you were 12 years old. 5. I have 4 beautiful children. I've had stepchildren in my life. I got a ton of nieces and nephews. I got a bunch of little brothers and sisters. Let's not even start counting cousins and friends' kids. So many 5-year-olds have passed through my life, and not one of them has ever hit on me sexually. I've never seen one of them hit on anybody else sexually. Never heard of it. But your 5-year-old stepsister took it upon herself to initiate a grown folks relationship with you. Now I'm going to say this. Even if at 5 years old, this 5-year-old had come to you in some type of what you perceive to be a sexual way, you were 12. And I'm pretty sure that you were abused in that way as a child yourself, Don. If this 5-year-old came at you in a way that you thought was sexual or come on or a flirt, did it ever cross your mind that something was wrong? Somebody touched this little girl? Because I know you've been touched. I can tell. Even if that wasn't your thought, even if you've never been touched. As a 12-year-old, as a 12-year-old, you would have been aware enough of the world and how it works to know that that was not normal. You know why? Because 5-year-olds aren't sexual. So you are a disgusting, filthy, low down piece of trash. And you deserve everything that's coming to you. And it's coming soon. Not a threat. I'm just telling you. Keep hollering Jesus. You better get on your knees and scream Jesus. Because you need prayer. A whole lot of it. And holy water. And the laying on of hands. You need fasting. You need a whole bunch of stuff. But you still got your punishment coming. See, one thing I don't agree with certain people who try to cling to or broadcast religion is that when they're in the wrong, they will quote every scripture that they can find about forgiveness and love and peace. And I was raised in the church. I believe every word of the Bible. The parts I like because they make me feel good, and the parts I don't like because they make me feel like, oh, you need to tighten up. You need to get your stuff together. And that same Bible that talks about forgiveness and love and new starts and new beginnings, it also talks about punishment. It talks about paying for your sins. It talks about being held accountable. Because even though Jesus suffered, bled, and died, and rose again on the third day, and forgave our sins, doesn't mean you don't have to suffer the consequences of your actions, especially your actions taken before the point of salvation. Jesus is not a free ticket it's not a get out of jail free card. Don, I'm gonna say this last thing to Don. What you sound like right now is the people who love Deuteronomy 28. I'm blessed in the city, I'm blessed in the streets, I'm blessed when I come, I'm blessed when I go, I'm blessed in the fields, my house blessed, my kids blessed, my car blessed, my business blessed, my job blessed, my bank account blessed. And according to the first half of that chapter, that is 100% correct. But there are qualifiers in there. Before you get to the parts that say you are blessed in, get to the parts that say if you do this, this, and this, you are blessed in. Then the second chapter, the second half of the chapter, where it says if you don't do this, 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 and it tells you how you're going to be cursed and all those things. Cursed in the city, cursed in the streets, cursed in the fields, cursed in your bank account, cursed in your house, cursed in your home, cursed in your job. So, Don, read your Bible a little more carefully. Read it just a little more carefully. He said you were forgiven, not absolved of punishment. Because how does it even make sense if God says, vengeance is mine? You don't think that 5-year-old stepsister and said how many prayers asking God to save me from this, change this, stop him? So how can he be her avenger if he's going to let you get away scot-free? You're a horrible person, Don. You are a horrible person, and you are twisted. Grandma Candace, we don't even know enough about her to really say anything. I've heard some rumors. heard some this, that, and the other thing, but how could you just leave? Even if even if you had a previously scheduled medical procedure, it's been almost 2 months. You ain't came back yet? I know they didn't keep you in the hospital that long for your knee. Let me tell you, and I can say this because even though I have not had a child or a grandchild go missing, I have had some serious situations, very serious, very life and death, present themselves involving a child or a grandchild. Let me tell you, everything came to a stop. I had to have a surgery a few years ago, and the day that my surgery was scheduled ended up being the same day that my grandson's wake was scheduled. So at 5 o'clock in the morning, I was at the outpatient surgery center. And as soon as I woke up in recovery, I was on my way to the funeral home because I was going to be there because my child needed me. And Candace needs you. Of course, there's always the possibility that you know about or participated in whatever happened this summer. Either way, that makes you a horrible person. If you know about something and you ain't talking, you're over there wherever you are hiding out, hoping that they forget to ask you certain questions. You are a horrible person because that's your granddaughter. If you know for a fact that Candace didn't do anything to this baby, but you're over there wherever you are and not at her side supporting her, comforting her, loving on her as your daughter whose daughter is missing, you're a horrible person because that's so selfish. I got a sister right now. I love her. She can't stand me, but I love her. And if anything were to happen in her life, I wouldn't care. I'm going to find a way to shoot her a text message, call her, show up at her door, get a message to her. I'm going to do everything I can to be by her side. This poor child, man. And then the internet is just taking full on advantage of her situation. Like, how do you go live for hours and hours and hours to talk about nothing because there's no new information? We haven't heard new information in weeks, well over a month, I want to say. So what are you doing 6, 7, 8 hour lives about? Just doesn't even make sense. And if you made it to the end of my rant, I appreciate it. Like I said, this is my last video about Summer Wells until some new information comes out, until she's found, until she's brought home, rescue or recovery. I'm not going to try to get clicks and views and likes off of this child's suffering. Because she is not just a hashtag on social media. She's not just a phrase to throw in a title on YouTube. This is a beautiful, innocent, sweet little girl. And whatever is happening to her right now, she 100% does not deserve. She 100% does not deserve. Whatever happened that took her away from home that day, by whomever took her, there is no reasonable explanation and no reasonable excuse. Because at this point, if there was an accident, okay, maybe you panicked at first. It was an accident. You were scared to tell, you were scared to say something, you were scared you're going to get in trouble or lose your kids or whatever. But even if it were an accident, there has to come a point in time where you're like, you know what, let me just tell them what happened. Because if nothing else, you care enough about your child that you want to see her properly taken care of. Even if she's not with us, you want to see her properly laid to rest out of respect and love for your child. So at this point, 60 something odd days in, anybody with any kind of knowledge needs to find themselves up under the backside of the dungeon of the prison. Go straight to jail. Do not pass go. This poor child deserves so much better than these grown folks that are in her life. She really does. Check the link in the description. Well, check the description. There is a reward fund for the recovery of Summer Wells, organized by Tim Coup. This information is also in the description. This is not some willy-nilly random GoFundMe by some stranger on the internet. This is an official personage with, I believe this is, I don't have the info right in front of me. I believe it is a search and rescue team in that area. Yeah, Tim Coup. Churchill Rescue Squad Captain Timothy Coup. The Rescue Reward Fund is through Civis, Civis Bank. If you're local, you can walk in or call them to add funds to the reward fund. The link in the description, you will find the address. You can mail a check or a money order. Other places you could also donate would be to EquiSearch Midwest for all their efforts, in this case and many others, as well as Texas EquiSearch, the primary organization of which EquiSearch Midwest is an offshoot. Great people helping families free of charge. They move on their own dime. So every donation, every dog biscuit, every dollar is helpful to them to further their cause. The founder's story is amazing of how he started this organization. All that information is on their website, on the Texas EquiSearch website. And you can read about how his daughter went missing, and that led to him eventually founding Texas EquiSearch. If you are a praying person, pray for Summer. Pray that this ridiculous circus comes to an end quickly and that Summer is brought home rescue, or recovery, preferably, much more preferably, rescue. My last Summer Wells video until new information is released. Stay tuned to the channel for my first video will be the small town triple homicide with the shocking DNA twist. I'm currently trying to gather just a few more details, speaking to locals because it did not receive very much news coverage. And hopefully I will be able to present that for you by midweek. Y'all have a great day. Stay blessed. Keep summer in your prayers.